When a father's fortress becomes a death trap, survival demands the impossible: trust. Ryan Hale built his cliffside home to protect one person, his son. Reinforced doors, backup generators, escape routes no one else knew. But at 5:42 a.m., a bleeding stranger shatters his perfect security, bringing hunters to his doorstep and exposing a betrayal that turns every safeguard into a weapon against him. Tonight, Ryan will learn the brutal truth. Walls can't save you when the enemy knows every lock, every exit, every secret you buried to keep your child safe. Stay until the end. Hit that like button. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. The storm arrived 3 hours before dawn, battering the Pacific coast with the kind of violence that made the cliffs feel temporary. Ryan Hale had stopped sleeping through storms years ago. His body wouldn't allow it. Even now, sprawled across sheets that never quite felt warm enough, his mind cataloged sounds: wind velocity against reinforced glass, rain drumming the solar panels, the groan of foundation bolts he'd personally installed into bedrock. At 5:42 a.m., a new sound cut through the chaos. Not wind, not structural stress, not the branches of the dead pine he kept meaning to remove. Human movement. Ryan's eyes opened. No confusion, no gradual waking. One moment unconscious, the next fully operational, his hand already moving toward the biometric safe beneath his nightstand. His fingers found the scanner. The lock disengaged with a whisper of pneumatic pressure. The Glock 19 felt like an extension of his nervous system. He rose in silence, bare feet on cold hardwood, wearing only boxer briefs and the situational awareness that had kept him alive through Kandahar, Mosul, and a dozen contracts he'd never discuss. His home was a single-story structure cantilevered over the cliff edge, all angles and glass designed to make approach impossible. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1 great room. 2,800 square feet of sight lines and controlled access points. Every window was reinforced polycarbonate. Every door was steel core with smart locks he could disable remotely. The security system had cost more than most people's cars: motion sensors, cameras with night vision, pressure plates on the gravel driveway. None of it had made a sound. That was the first problem. Ryan moved through the hallway, weapon raised, checking corners with the mechanical precision of muscle memory. His son's door was closed. He pressed his ear against it, heard the soft, rhythmic breathing of a 6-year-old deep in sleep. The kind of peace Ryan would kill to protect. He moved on. The bathroom door at the end of the hall stood open. Light spilled out. Not the overhead fixture, but the pale emergency LED he'd installed for power outages. His pulse kicked up, not from fear, but from the biochemical reality of threat recognition. Someone had turned on that light. Ryan approached from the side, keeping his body behind the wall, angling for a view without exposure. The mirror showed him fragments, white tile, chrome fixtures, and then a woman. She stood beside his sink, one hand braced against the counter, the other pressed to her side. Blood seeped between her fingers, dark and viscous against the gauze wrapped around her torso. Her clothes were soaked: black tactical pants, a torn gray shirt clinging to her frame, dark hair plastered to her skull, mid-30s maybe. Lean and compact, the kind of build that came from discipline, not genetics. She wasn't looking at the mirror. She was looking directly at the doorway, as if she'd been waiting for him. Ryan stepped into view, weapon-trained center mass, his voice low and absolutely level. "Hands where I can see them." She didn't flinch, didn't raise her hands either, just stood there, bleeding onto his tile, her eyes never leaving his. They were gray, he noted distantly, the color of the ocean before a storm. "I'm not armed," she said. Her voice was rough, strained with pain, but eerily calm. "If I wanted you dead, I'd have come through your son's window, not your bathroom." The words hit like a physical blow. Ryan's finger tightened fractionally on the trigger. "You mention my son again, this conversation ends." "Fair." She grimaced, shifted her weight. Fresh blood darkened the gauze. "I need a safe place, just until morning, then I'm gone." "You broke into my home. Your motion sensors have been disabled for 6 minutes. Your perimeter cameras are on a 30-second loop. I didn't break anything. I bypassed." She tilted her head slightly, acknowledging the weapon pointed at her chest. If I were here to hurt you, we wouldn't be talking. Ryan processed the information with the cold efficiency that had kept him breathing through a career of bad situations. She was right about the systems. He'd felt it in his gut the moment he woke. The silence had been wrong. Too complete. He'd attributed it to storm interference, but now... Who disabled my security? I did. Bullshit. Those systems require three-factor authentication, rotating encryption keys, and physical access to the hub in your crawl space. Her gray eyes never wavered. I know. I wrote the bypass code in your driveway 20 minutes ago. I'm very good at what I do, and what I do is survive. The words should have sounded like a threat. Instead, they carried the flat exhaustion of someone past the point of posturing. Ryan's tactical mind ran scenarios. She was injured, possibly dying. No visible weapons, but that meant nothing. Her presence meant his location was compromised. Worse, it meant his son's location was compromised. Every instinct screamed to put her down, dump the body, and disappear with his son before whoever was hunting her came knocking. But she was still standing there, bleeding, not begging, just waiting. You have 10 seconds to tell me why I shouldn't pull this trigger, Ryan said. Because I'm being hunted by people who make you look soft, she replied. And because when they get here, and they will get here, you're going to need someone who knows how they think. I can handle myself. I'm sure you can. But can you handle a 4-man tactical team with military-grade equipment while protecting a 6-year-old who sleeps with a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunk? Ryan's blood went cold. She saw it register and something almost like sympathy flickered across her face. I didn't come here for your secrets, she said quietly. I came for your walls. This house is a fortress. I need a fortress, just until the storm breaks and I can move again. And if I say no? Then I walk back into that storm and they find me within the hour. They question me. I last maybe 2 hours before I tell them everything, including the fact that I came here first. Including the fact that your security is better than anything for 50 miles, including... Enough. Ryan's jaw clenched. You're bleeding on my floor. I'm aware. That wound needs treatment or you'll be dead by dawn. Also aware. They stared at each other. The storm hammered the glass behind him. Somewhere in the house, a timber creaked under the wind's assault. Ryan made a decision he knew he'd regret. Sit down before you fall down, he said, lowering the weapon fractionally. We're going to have a conversation. Then you're going to tell me everything. And if I don't like what I hear, you're going back into that storm. Clear? Crystal. She sank onto the closed toilet lid with a sharp intake of breath. Up close, Ryan could see the damage. The wound was a knife slash, maybe 8 inches long, crossing her left ribs. Deep enough to need stitches, not deep enough to hit anything vital. Professional work. Someone had wanted her hurt and running, not dead. First aid kit is under the sink, Ryan said, keeping the gun trained on her. Use it. Talk while you work. She reached down slowly, retrieved the kit with her free hand, and popped it open. Her movements were economical, practiced. She'd done field medicine before. My name is Lena Moore, she said, peeling away the blood-soaked gauze. I'm a forensic accountant. 3 weeks ago, I uncovered evidence of a financial network moving money for the Volkov syndicate. Weapons, trafficking, the full nightmare. $8 billion over 4 years, hidden inside what looked like legitimate shipping logistics. Ryan knew the name. Everyone in the private security world knew the name. The Volkovs weren't mob, they were infrastructure. International, ruthless, connected. Why are you still breathing? He asked. Because I'm smart enough to fragment the evidence before they found out what I knew. She poured antiseptic over the wound without flinching. I have pieces scattered across encrypted servers, physical drives, safety deposit boxes in 3 countries, none of it accessible by just one person. Kill me, the whole chain breaks. I'm worth more alive. Until they decide the risk outweighs the reward, which is why I'm bleeding in your bathroom instead of at home. She began applying butterfly closures, her hands steady despite the pain. They sent a cleaner tonight. Former Spetsnaz, very efficient. I got lucky. Heard him in the stairwell, went out the fire escape. He caught me on the 2nd floor landing. How'd you get away? A ghost of a smile. I stabbed him in the femoral artery with his own knife and jumped onto a dumpster. He bled out before he could follow. They'll find him in about 3 hours when the building manager makes rounds. Ryan studied her. The clinical precision of her story, the lack of emotion, the way she described murder like it was a failed meeting. Either she was a stone-cold professional or she'd shattered completely, and this was the aftermath. "Why here?" he pressed. "Why my house specifically?" Lena paused in her bandaging, met his eyes. "Because 6 months ago, I did a background check on every property within 100 miles that met my criteria. Isolated, defensible, owned by someone with a military or security background. Your house hit every marker. When I needed a bolt hole, this was top of the list." "That's not an answer. That's surveillance." "Yes." No apology in her voice. "I've been preparing for this scenario for 8 months, since the moment I realized what I'd found. You think I'd run without a plan?" Ryan wanted to be angry. He wanted to feel violated, exposed. Instead, he felt a grudging threat of respect. She'd thought like a survivor. In her position, he'd have done the same. "How many are hunting you?" he asked. "Tonight?" The cleaner was alone. "By dawn, they'll send a team. 4, maybe 6. They won't come loud. Too much risk of law enforcement. They'll come quiet, professional, contain, and extract. And when they get here, they'll find a fortress built by a paranoid father who knows his business." Lena finished the last closure, began wrapping fresh gauze. "They'll probe for weaknesses, test the perimeter. If you're smart, you'll turn me over before they have to escalate." "I don't negotiate with people who threaten my son." "I'm not threatening your son. I'm telling you the cost of helping me." She secured the bandage with medical tape. "You seem like a man who appreciates clarity." Ryan's phone buzzed in the bedroom. Once, twice, then silence. His security system trying to reconnect, failing, trying again. The automated message would be waiting. Perimeter breach. System offline. Manual reset required. "They're here already," Lena said softly. "What?" "That buzz. System trying to reestablish. They're jamming your signal." She stood slowly, testing her balance. "Probably parked on the access road, out of sight. They'll have thermal imaging, directional mics, the works. Right now they're mapping the house, counting heat signatures, planning entry points." Ryan's mind raced through defensive protocols. Wake his son, get him to the safe room, lockdown procedures, call for backup. No. No backup. Not out here. Sheriff's response time was 40 minutes on a good day. In this storm, double that. He was alone. Not alone. He had Lena. A woman he'd met 5 minutes ago. A woman who'd invaded his home, compromised his security, and brought killers to his door. "How long until they move?" he asked. "Depends on their orders. If they want me alive, they'll try to negotiate. If they just want the problem gone, they'll breach in the next 10 minutes. Ryan made his second terrible decision of the night. "The safe room is behind the bookshelf in my son's bedroom," he said. 6-inch steel walls, independent air supply, satellite phone. "You're going to help me get him inside, then you're going to stay there with him until this is over." Lena blinked. "You're protecting me." "I'm protecting my son. You're just collateral." Ryan's voice was ice. "But if what you're saying is true, those men will tear this house apart looking for you. Better to give them a hard target than multiple soft ones. You don't trust me with your child." "I don't trust you at all, but I trust men like the ones you've described even less." He moved to the door, checked the hallway. Clear. "And if you try anything that puts my son at risk, the Volkovs will have to get in line behind me. We clear?" "Clear." "Then move. Quietly." They crept down the hallway together, Ryan leading with the weapon, Lena following in his shadow. The house felt different now. Every shadow a threat, every creak a warning. He'd lived here for 3 years, knew every board, every draft, every acoustic quirk. None of it felt safe anymore. His son's door opened silently. The room inside was exactly as Ryan maintained it. Nightlight glowing softly, toys organized in bins, posters of dinosaurs and spaceships covering the walls. And there, in the small bed beneath the window, buried under blankets and clutching Mr. Trunk, was everything Ryan lived for. The boy didn't stir as Ryan approached. 6 years old, dark hair like his mother's, the kind of peaceful sleep that only children could achieve. Ryan placed a hand on his son's shoulder, gentle, but firm. "Hey, buddy, wake up." Small eyes opened, confused and drowsy. "Dad?" "We're playing the hiding game, remember? The one we practiced." Understanding dawned. To the boy's credit, he didn't cry, didn't panic. Ryan had trained him for this since he was 4. Not because he wanted to steal his son's innocence, but because the world stole innocence whether you wanted it or not. Better to be ready. "Is it real this time?" the boy whispered. "It's real. But you're going to be fine. I need you to trust me." "Okay, Dad." Ryan scooped him up, blankets and all, and carried him to the far wall. The bookshelf looked ordinary, particle board and paperbacks, children's books mixed with Ryan's technical manuals. He pressed a specific sequence on the shelf's edge. Third book from the left, bottom shelf, then the spine of the dictionary on the top. A section of wall clicked, swung inward. Beyond was a space the size of a walk-in closet. Steel-reinforced walls, a ventilation grate connected to an independent air system, a chemical toilet, bottled water, emergency rations, a satellite phone in a charging cradle, a monitor showing feeds from external cameras, currently displaying static. Ryan set his son inside, knelt to his level. "Remember the rules? Stay quiet. Don't open the door unless you say the safe word." "That's my boy. What's the safe word?" "Elephant." "Perfect." Ryan kissed his forehead, his heart clenching. "I'll come get you soon, I promise." He stood, gestured for Lena. She hesitated at the threshold. "If they breach the house, they'll find this room eventually," she said. "That door will hold for hours. By then, this will be over, one way or another." "And if it goes the other way?" Ryan's expression went flat. "Then you use the satellite phone, call the number programmed in memory 1, and you tell them everything. They'll extract you and my son within the hour." "Who's memory 1? "Someone I trust more than you." Lena nodded slowly, stepped inside. Ryan's son looked up at her, clutching his elephant. "Who are you?" the boy asked. "Someone your dad is helping," Lena said gently. "We're going to wait here together, okay? We'll be very quiet and very brave." "Like hiding from dinosaurs?" "Exactly like that." Ryan felt something crack in his chest. Seeing this stranger comfort his son, seeing his child accept her presence without fear. He pushed the feeling down, locked it away with all the other things he couldn't afford to feel. "I'm sealing the door now," Ryan said. "Remember." "Elephant," his son repeated. "I know, Dad. Go kick butt." Despite everything, Ryan smiled. "Language." "You say it. I'm a grown-up." "That's not fair." "Life isn't fair, buddy. Love you." "Love you too." Ryan swung the door closed, heard the magnetic locks engage with a solid thunk. The bookshelf slid back into place, seamless. Unless you knew exactly where to look, you'd never find it. He checked his watch, 6:03 a.m. The storm was beginning to fade, rain tapering from assault to steady drumming. Dawn would arrive in about 90 minutes. If Lena was right, the attack would come sooner. Ryan moved through the house with purpose now, no longer checking corners. Anyone inside would already know he was active. He went to the master bedroom, pulled a locked case from beneath the bed. Inside, rifle, ammunition, body armor, tactical vest. He dressed for war. The security system monitor was still dead, but Ryan had planned for that. He pulled a tablet from his nightstand drawer, booted a secondary system that ran on a completely separate network. Cameras flickered to life, grainy but functional. 3 vehicles on the access road, 200 yards out. Black SUVs, windows tinted. No movement visible, but heat signatures showed bodies inside. 7 total. More than Lena predicted. Professionals didn't like to be understaffed. Ryan switched camera angles, scanned the perimeter. Nothing moving yet. They were still in the planning phase, analyzing, waiting for the power cut out. Not a flicker, not a surge. Complete, instantaneous blackout. The emergency LED in the bathroom kicked on, along with battery-powered nightlights throughout the house. Everything else, dead. They'd cut the main line and disabled his solar array. Probably an EMP device, localized, strong enough to fry civilian electronics. The tablet in Ryan's hand went dark. He was operating blind now. Ryan moved to the great room, the heart of his home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the cliff and ocean beyond, currently hammered by the dying storm. beautiful and tactically catastrophic. He'd installed steel shutters on every window, controllable from a panel in the hallway. He hit the manual release. Motors whined. Shutters descended, plunging the room into darkness before the emergency lights compensated. Now the windows were barriers, not perfect, but better than exposed glass. A sound outside, barely audible over the rain. Metal on gravel. They were approaching. Ryan took position behind the kitchen island, rifle braced, controlling his breathing. In the darkness, his pupils dilated, adapting. He'd trained for this, practiced every scenario, every entry point, every angle of fire. But training assumed enemies who didn't know the battlefield. These men had been watching, learning. They knew the layout as well as he did. The first breach came from the south wall, a shape charge precisely placed, blowing the lock on the reinforced door that led to his office. Not loud enough to be breaching explosive. Thermite, maybe. Surgical. The door swung open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Ryan didn't fire. Not yet. Let them commit. Let them enter the fatal funnel. Two men in tactical gear swept inside, moving with the synchronized precision of military training. Night vision goggles, suppressed weapons, body armor. They cleared the office in seconds, advanced toward the hallway. Ryan sighted on the lead man's head, the only target not covered by armor, and squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. The suppressor reduced the report to a sharp crack. The man dropped, his partner spinning toward the muzzle flash. Ryan was already moving, rolling behind the couch as suppressed gunfire chewed through the space he'd occupied. The second man advanced, professional, not panicking. Mistake. Ryan came up from behind the furniture, fired twice. Center mass, then head. The man stumbled, his armor catching the first round, the second punching through the gap where his helmet met his vest. He went down. Silence. Then voices outside coordinated, adjusting tactics. They'd expected resistance, but not this level of skill. Ryan had just reminded them they weren't dealing with a soft target. A canister shattered through one of the shuttered windows, hissing, gas. Tear gas, most likely, or smoke. Ryan pulled a respirator from his vest, another contingency, and sealed it over his face. The house filled with acrid fog. More breaching charges. They were coming from multiple directions now, overwhelming his ability to defend every approach. West wall, east wall, the garage door, simultaneous entry. 5 men left, and Ryan was one person. He fell back toward the hallway, toward his son's room, firing controlled bursts to slow their advance. Muzzle flashes lit the fog like lightning. Bullets tore through drywall, shattered picture frames, destroyed the illusion of home. A figure emerged from the smoke to Ryan's left. He pivoted, squeezed the trigger. Click. Empty magazine. The man lunged. Ryan dropped the rifle, drew the Glock, fired point blank. The man's visor cracked, spiderwebbing red. He collapsed. 3 left. No. 4. The fourth came from behind, from the direction of the garage. Ryan spun, fired, but the man was already on him, driving him into the wall with bone-jarring force. The Glock clattered away. Hand to hand, close quarters, brutal. Ryan drove an elbow into the man's throat, felt cartilage crunch. The man staggered, gasping. Ryan followed with a knee to the ribs, then a hammer fist to the base of the skull. The man went down, not unconscious, but stunned. Ryan retrieved the Glock, put a round through the man's head. No hesitation, no mercy. This was war, and war didn't allow for prisoners. Something slammed into his back, a rifle stock, wielded like a club. Pain exploded through his spine. Ryan stumbled, his vision graying. A voice, calm and familiar, cut through the chaos. Stand down, Hale. This ends now. Ryan turned, agony screaming through his nervous system, and looked into the face of his past. Marcus Webb stood in the hallway, rifle trained on Ryan's chest. 42 years old, graying at the temples, the same cold efficiency in his eyes that Ryan remembered from a dozen operations in a dozen shitholes around the world. His former partner, the man who'd helped design this house, who'd advised on the security systems, the safe room, the contingency plans, the man who knew every weakness, every hidden strength. Marcus, Ryan breathed. Sorry, brother, Marcus said, and he almost sounded like he meant it. Nothing personal, just business. He pulled the trigger. The shot never came. Ryan's body had already begun its defensive twist, muscle memory overriding conscious thought, when he realized Marcus's rifle was pointed not at him, but past him, at something in the smoke-filled hallway behind. A wet, choking sound. The thud of a body hitting floor. Marcus lowered the weapon, his expression unreadable through the dissipating gas. "You're welcome." Ryan's mind struggled to process what had just happened. Behind him, sprawled against the wall, was the fifth man, the one Ryan hadn't seen coming. Blood pooled beneath his tactical vest, spreading across the hardwood Ryan had installed himself 3 summers ago. "What the hell are you doing here?" Ryan rasped, his back still screaming where he'd been struck. "Saving your ass, apparently." Marcus moved forward, stepping over the body with practiced indifference. He looked older than Ryan remembered, harder. The kind of hard that came from crossing lines you couldn't uncross. "You always were terrible at watching your six. You helped design this house." "I did." "You knew every security protocol." "Still do." Ryan's hand tightened on the Glock, still pointed at the floor, but ready to rise. "Then why are you here with them?" Marcus glanced around the destroyed hallway, shattered drywall, blood splatter, the acrid smell of gunpowder mixing with tear gas. "I'm not with them. I'm with you. Always have been, even when you were too stupid to see it." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer you're getting right now." Marcus keyed his radio. "Targets down, primary secure. Extract in 5. He released the button, met Ryan's eyes. "We need to move. The people who sent that team aren't going to stop with one failure." Ryan's tactical mind warred with his instinct. Marcus Webb had been his partner for 6 years in the contracting world. Baghdad, Kabul, Syria, when Syria stopped being a country and became a killing field. They'd saved each other's lives more times than Ryan could count. When Ryan had left the life, bought this property, tried to build something clean for his son, Marcus had helped. Had consulted on security, had written checks when Ryan's savings fell short, had been the closest thing to family Ryan allowed himself. And now he'd appeared in the middle of a firefight, killing the men who'd come to kill Ryan. Or killing the men who might have asked questions Marcus didn't want answered. "Where's your son?" Marcus asked. Every protective instinct Ryan possessed screamed danger. "Somewhere you'll never find him." "Good. That's good, Ryan. Smart." Marcus ejected his magazine, checked the remaining rounds, reloaded. "The woman. Lena Moore. She here?" Ryan's silence was answer enough. Marcus nodded slowly. "Thought so. That's why they came. Not for you. For her." "Who sent them?" "Does it matter? They're dead. Focus on what comes next." "What comes next is you telling me the truth." Ryan raised the Glock, centered it on Marcus's chest. Old friend or not, he wasn't gambling with his son's life. "All of it. Now." Marcus looked at the weapon, then at Ryan's face. Something flickered in his expression, disappointment maybe, or resignation. "You really don't trust me. You show up in the middle of an assault on my home with perfect timing, and you expect trust? I expect common sense. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. If I wanted the woman, I'd have breached the safe room while you were playing hero in the great room." Marcus's voice dropped, taking on an edge Ryan recognized from operations gone sideways. "I'm here because I got word the Volkovs were moving on this location. I drove through a goddamn hurricane to warn you, and I arrived to find you already in contact. So either you start thinking tactically instead of emotionally, or we're both going to die having a very stupid conversation." The words had the ring of truth, but truth and deception sounded identical when spoken by professionals. "How did you know they were coming here, boss?" Ryan pressed. "Because I still have contacts in the world you left behind. People who owe me favors, people who trade information." Marcus moved to the window, peered through a gap in the shutter. "The Volkov network put out a contract on Lena Moore 6 hours ago. High value, time sensitive. Every cleaner and crew within 500 miles got the alert. When I saw the location parameters, I knew they'd triangulate to your property." "Why would you care?" Marcus turned from the window, and for the first time, Ryan saw something raw beneath the professional mask. "Because I owe you. Fallujah. 2018, when that IED turned our convoy into scrap metal. You pulled me out while I was on fire. You remember that? I remember. You saved my life when it would have been easier to run. So when I heard someone was coming for you, I came. Simple as that. The explanation was plausible. More than plausible. It aligned with the Marcus Webb that Ryan had known, the man who'd operated by a brutal but consistent code, loyalty to the team above everything else. But 6 years had passed. People changed. Loyalties shifted. The woman testified against a financial network, Ryan said, watching Marcus's face for micro-expressions. $8 billion in dirty money. The kind of money that buys former operators. It does, Marcus agreed. It bought the team you just killed. Military contractors, all of them. Good men who made bad choices. You knew them. I knew of them. Different circles, but the community isn't that big. Marcus checked his watch. We're wasting time. In about 10 minutes, whoever's running this operation will realize their team went dark. They'll send more, or they'll escalate to a different solution. Long-range rifle, drone strike if they're desperate enough. This house is compromised, Ryan. You need to evacuate. I'm not running. Then you're dying, and your son's dying with you. The words hit like a physical blow. Ryan's jaw clenched. He's safe. For now. But safe rooms aren't fortresses. They're coffins with air conditioning. Stay here long enough, and you're just making it convenient for them to bury you. Marcus stepped closer, his voice urgent. I have an extraction route. Boat at the marina 3 miles south. We can be offshore before they regroup. We. Yes, we. You, your son, the woman. Everyone gets out. And then what? Then I get you to a safe house while we figure out how to make the Volkovs lose interest. The woman has leverage, evidence, testimony, something. We negotiate, we leverage, we find an angle. But we do it from a position of strength, not trapped in a house with one exit and a killing field outside. It was a good plan, tactically sound, the kind of extraction Marcus had executed dozens of times in hostile territory. It was also the perfect setup for betrayal. Get Ryan and his son isolated, away from any defensive position, vulnerable on a boat in open water. 1 bullet, 2 bodies in the ocean, and Marcus could deliver Lena Moore to whoever was paying top dollar. Ryan's finger rested outside the trigger guard, tension coiling in his shoulders. If I agree, you're going to tell me everything. Who's funding the hunt? What Lena actually found? And why you're really here? Agreed. Once we're mobile and secure. Swear it. Marcus met his eyes, and Ryan searched for the lie he was certain had to be there. Instead, he saw exhaustion and something that looked unsettlingly like fear. I swear on the blood we shed together, Marcus said quietly. On Fallujah and every operation after. You're my brother, Ryan. I wouldn't burn you. The words hung in the smoke-fouled air between them. Brotherhood was currency in their world, worth more than money or contracts. It was also the easiest thing to fake. Ryan made his decision. We move in 3 minutes. I get my son, you secure the perimeter. Anyone approaches, you put them down. Clear? Clear. They moved through the house together, a practiced rhythm from years of partnered operations. Marcus took point, Ryan covered rear, both of them scanning corners and angles with the efficiency of men who'd survived by never relaxing. The bodies they passed told a story. 5 men, all dead, all professional. Ryan recognized the gear, Russian-made armor, modified HK-416 rifles, night vision that cost more than a car. This hadn't been a cheap operation. Marcus paused at the office door, studied the breach point. Thermite cutting charge. High-end work. They knew what they were doing. They knew what you'd have. Someone briefed them on your security setup. Marcus glanced at Ryan. Not me, before you ask, but someone with intimate knowledge. Short list of people with that knowledge. Very short. They reached the hallway outside Ryan's son's bedroom. Ryan moved to the bookshelf, began the sequence to open the safe room. His hands trembled slightly, adrenaline finally catching up, combat chemistry flooding his system with the aftershocks of violence. The wall clicked, swung open. Inside, Lena sat against the steel wall, Ryan's son asleep in her lap, still clutching Mr. Trunk. She'd wrapped the boy in one of the emergency blankets, silver fabric glinting in the LED light. Her face was pale, pain etched around her eyes, but her hand rested protectively on the child's shoulder. She looked up, saw Marcus, and her entire body went rigid. "No," she breathed. "No, not him." Marcus raised his hand slowly. "Easy. I'm friendly. You're Marcus Webb. You worked for the Volkovs until 8 months ago." Lena's voice was low, controlled, but Ryan heard the terror beneath. "You laundered money through 12 shell companies in Eastern Europe. I have the transaction records." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Ryan swung his weapon toward Marcus, who hadn't moved, hand still raised, expression carefully neutral. "Is that true?" Ryan asked. "Parts of it," Marcus admitted. "I did consultation work for organizations with Volkov connections, financial security assessments mostly. I didn't ask questions about the money, and they paid well enough that I didn't need to." "You worked for the people hunting her." "I worked for a lot of people. That's how contracting works." Marcus's eyes never left Lena. "And I stopped working for them 6 months before you started poking around in their business. So whatever you think you know about me, it's outdated." "You expect me to believe you just walked away from that kind of money?" Lena's hand had moved to her side, pressing against the bandaged wound. "People don't leave the Volkovs, they retire people. People leave when they have good enough reason." "What reason?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's personal." "Nothing's personal anymore, not when you show up here." Lena shifted, trying to stand without waking the child. "Ryan, this man is compromised. He's either here to deliver us, or he's here to kill us and collect the bounty himself." "I'm here to extract you before the next team arrives," Marcus snapped, his calm finally cracking. "And that team will arrive because the Volkovs don't stop. They don't negotiate. They sent 5 men, and you killed 5 men, so they'll send 10, then 20. Then they'll stop being subtle and just level this entire hillside." "Sounds like you know their playbook pretty well." "I do, which is why I'm the best chance you have of surviving the next 24 hours. Ryan's mind raced through scenarios, probabilities, the chess game of trust and betrayal. Lena's information was credible. She was a forensic accountant. Her entire job was following money trails. If she said Marcus had Volkov connections, she probably had documentation. But Marcus had also just killed a man who'd been about to kill Ryan. That counted for something. Or it was theater. A long con. Establish trust, secure the asset, deliver the package. "Ryan," Lena said quietly, "please don't do this. If you bring him, we're all dead." "If we stay here, we're definitely dead," Ryan countered. "Marcus is right about that much. This house is burned." "Then we run separately. You take your son, I'll take my chances. But don't trust him." Marcus laughed, a bitter sound. "You don't have chances. You have hours, maybe less. The Volkovs know you're here now. They know Ryan helped you. That makes him and his son targets too. The only way any of you survive is together, and the only way you get out is with my help." "Why should we believe you?" "Because I could have shot all of you 10 minutes ago and been halfway to the coast with Lena's body." Marcus lowered his hand slowly. "I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for tactical cooperation. We extract, we get to safety, and then you can hate me all you want. But we do it alive." Ryan looked at his sleeping son, so small and fragile in the harsh LED light. Looked at Lena, injured and hunted, trying to protect a child that wasn't hers. Looked at Marcus, his oldest friend or his worst enemy, impossible to tell which. Every instinct told him this was a mistake, but every tactical calculation told him staying was suicide. "We go," Ryan said. "But Marcus, you're going to walk in front. Lena and I bring up the rear. You make a move I don't like. I put a bullet through your spine. We clear?" "Crystal." "Lena, can you walk?" She nodded, carefully transferring the sleeping child back to Ryan. "I can walk. Fighting might be harder." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." Ryan cradled his son, the boy's warm weight against his chest, grounding him. "Marcus, what's the route?" "Out of the south door, through the tree line to the access road. I've got a vehicle stashed half a mile down, all terrain. From there, we head to the marina. Boats registered under a dummy corp, fully fueled, enough range to hit international waters. Coast Guard? Won't be a problem. I've got transponders that'll make us look like a fishing charter. Convenient. Preparation, not convenience." Marcus moved to the hallway, checked both directions. Perimeter's still quiet, but that won't last. We need to move now. They formed up, Marcus on point, Ryan in the middle with his son, Lena bringing up the rear despite her injury. Ryan had given her the Glock, kept the rifle for himself. If Marcus turned, Ryan would have the angle. If someone hit them from behind, Lena could respond. It was the best he could manage with limited resources and zero trust. They moved through the destroyed house, past bodies and bullet holes and the shattered remnants of the life Ryan had tried to build. Every photo on the wall, every piece of furniture he'd chosen, all of it stained now with blood and violence. This place would never be home again. The south door opened to rain-soaked darkness. The storm had passed, leaving behind a heavy mist that clung to the ground like something alive. Visibility was maybe 30 feet, sounds muffled and distorted. Perfect ambush weather. Marcus slipped outside, moved along the wall, weapon up and scanning. Ryan waited, counting seconds, watching for any sign of threat. Marcus's hand signal, clear. They followed. The tree line was 40 yards across open ground, exposed, vulnerable. Ryan's son stirred against his chest, mumbled something about elephants, then settled back into sleep. The boy's trust was absolute, unshakable. He believed his father would keep him safe. Ryan prayed he was right. They were halfway across when the shooting started. Muzzle flashes erupted from the tree line, automatic fire ripping through the mist. Marcus dove left, returning fire, his shots precise and controlled. Ryan went right, shielding his son with his body, feeling rounds crack past his head close enough to hear. Lena dropped to a crouch, fired 3 times toward the flashes, then scrambled toward cover. Ryan's son woke with a cry. "Dad!" "Stay down, buddy. Close your eyes." They made it to a drainage ditch, a muddy depression that offered minimal protection. Ryan pressed the boy flat, covered him with his own body, felt impacts thud into the earth around them. Marcus was screaming something, words lost in the gunfire. Ryan risked a look, saw his former partner emptying a magazine toward the trees, then reloading with mechanical speed. The firing slackened, voices in the mist coordinating. At least 3 shooters, probably more. They'd been waiting, had known the extraction route, which meant Marcus had led them here, or someone had predicted Marcus's plan. Either way, they were boxed. "Ryan!" Marcus's voice, urgent. "Suppressing fire, 30 seconds, then we move. You hear me?" "I hear you. On my mark, 3, 2, 1. Marcus and Lena opened up simultaneously, pouring rounds into the tree line. Ryan grabbed his son, lifted him, and ran. Not toward the access road, not toward the trees, toward the cliff. Behind the property was a service trail, overgrown and half forgotten, that descended the cliff face to a small beach below. Ryan had discovered it during construction, had kept it maintained as a final emergency exit. No one knew about it except him, not even Marcus. He hit the trail at a dead run, his son clutching his neck, branches whipping his face. Behind him, the gunfire reached a crescendo, then stopped. Either Marcus and Lena were dead or they'd broken contact. Ryan didn't stop to find out. The trail was treacherous, slick with rain, the cliff edge a black void to his right. One misstep, and they'd fall 200 feet to rocks and surf. Ryan's boots slipped, caught, slipped again. His son whimpered, but didn't cry. Brave beyond his years. They descended into darkness, leaving the battle behind. Above, someone screamed, a long, drawn-out sound that ended abruptly. Then silence. Ryan kept moving, his lungs burning, his legs shaking. The trail seemed endless, twisting back and forth across the cliff face. Twice he nearly lost his footing. Twice his son's weight almost pulled him over the edge. But they made it. The beach was a narrow strip of sand and rock, hemmed in by cliff walls on 3 sides, and the ocean on the 4th. Waves crashed in the darkness, spraying cold mist. Ryan set his son down, checked him for injuries. No blood, no wounds, just wide, frightened eyes. "We're okay," Ryan gasped. "We're okay, buddy." "Where's the lady?" "I don't know." "Is she hurt?" Ryan's chest tightened. "Maybe. We'll find her." "Promise?" He couldn't promise. Couldn't guarantee anything except that he'd die before he let harm come to this child. But he said it anyway, because sometimes children needed promises more than truth. "I promise." They huddled against the cliff wall, listening. Above, nothing. No gunfire, no voices, no pursuit. Just the ocean's relentless rhythm and Ryan's hammering heart. Minutes crawled past. Then, voices. Distant, filtered through rock and mist. Ryan pressed himself flatter against the stone, pulled his son close. They'd be invisible from above unless someone had thermal imaging. And if they had thermal imaging, this was over. The voices faded. Ryan waited another 5 minutes, then carefully pulled out his phone. No signal. The cliff walls blocked everything. They were alone, cut off, with no way to know if Lena and Marcus had survived or if an army was hunting them. "Dad," his son whispered, "I'm cold." Ryan stripped off his tactical vest, wrapped it around the boy. It was too big, but it was warm and dry on the inside. "Better?" "A little. Are the bad people gone?" "I think so." "Who were they?" How do you explain to a 6-year-old that people killed for money, that violence was a business, that the world had sharp edges waiting to cut anyone who got too close? "Just bad people," Ryan said. "But they can't find us here." "Because you're smart?" "Because I love you more than they want to hurt us." His son seemed to accept this logic. He snuggled deeper into the vest, his breathing evening out. Within minutes, he was asleep again, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. Ryan envied him. Sleep wasn't an option for the adult. He had to stay alert, watch for threats, plan the next move. The next move. What was the next move? The beach had no exit except the trail they'd descended or swimming through surf that would kill them in minutes. They couldn't go back up. Too exposed, possibly still hostile. They couldn't stay here. Exposure would claim them before dawn, or the tide would trap them against the cliff. They needed extraction, resources, allies. They needed someone Ryan could actually trust. He thought of the number programmed into the safe room's satellite phone. Memory 1. The person he'd told Lena to call if everything went wrong. Sarah Chen. His handler from the old days, the woman who'd recruited him into contracting, who'd watched his back through a dozen operations. She'd left the life same time as Ryan, had gone into private security consultation, had sworn she was done with the violence. But she'd also sworn that if Ryan ever needed her, she'd come. He had to get back to that phone. Ryan was considering the climb when he heard it. The soft scuff of boots on stone, somewhere close. He tensed, eased the rifle up, prepared to do what he'd done 100 times before. A figure emerged from the mist, limping, favoring one side, moving with obvious pain. Lena. She was alone, blood-soaked and trembling, her makeshift bandage completely red now, but she was alive. She saw Ryan and his son, relief flooding her features. "Thank God," she breathed, then collapsed. Ryan caught her before she hit the rocks, lowered her carefully. His son woke, saw the blood, and made a small sound of distress. "It's okay," Ryan told him. "She's hurt, but we're going to help her." "Is she dying?" Ryan checked Lena's pulse, weak but steady. The wound on her side had reopened, but the bleeding wasn't arterial. She'd lost blood, but not enough to be immediately fatal. "No," he said firmly. "She's not dying." Lena's eyes fluttered open. "Marcus," she rasped. Where is he?" "Dead. They shot him. He tried to cover our escape. And they shot him." Her voice broke. "He died saving us, Ryan. I was wrong about him." The words hit like a hammer. Marcus Webb, his brother in blood, his oldest friend, dead on a cliff above them. Dead protecting people who doubted him. Ryan felt something crack inside. Grief mixing with guilt, mixing with rage. "How many?" he managed. "I don't know, 6, maybe 7. I ran when Marcus went down. Followed you down the trail." She coughed, tasted blood. "They're still up there, looking. Can you walk?" "Not far, maybe 100 yards." Ryan looked at his son, at Lena, at the impossible situation they were trapped in. 3 people, 1 wounded, 1 a child, hunted by professionals with superior numbers and equipment. The tactical part of his brain said this was unwinnable. The father part said survival wasn't optional. "There's a cave system," Ryan said, remembering geological surveys from when he'd bought the property. "About 200 yards south along the beach, accessible only at low tide. We can hide there until I figure out extraction. 200 yards, Lena repeated weakly. I'll try. Ryan fashioned a crude compress from his shirt, packed it against her wound, secured it with his belt. It wouldn't hold long, but it might buy them time. They started moving, Ryan carrying his son, Lena leaning on his shoulder. Every step was agony for her, but she didn't complain, didn't slow them down more than necessary. The beach stretched ahead, shrouded in mist and darkness. Behind them, somewhere above, men with guns searched for their heat signatures. And Marcus Webb lay dead, having kept his promise to the end. Ryan promised himself that if they survived this, he'd make the Volkovs pay. Every last one of them. Not for money, not for justice, for brotherhood. They found the cave entrance just as the tide began its retreat, a black mouth in the cliff face half hidden by kelp-covered boulders. Ryan's son had fallen silent 20 minutes ago, no longer asking questions, just holding tight to his father's neck with the kind of grip that came from understanding that silence meant survival. Lena stumbled on the rocks, caught herself, kept moving. Her breathing had gone shallow and quick, the compress at her side completely soaked through. She was running on willpower and adrenaline, and both were finite resources. The cave swallowed them whole, darkness so complete that Ryan had to feel his way forward with one hand while carrying his son with the other. The air inside was cold and damp, heavy with the smell of salt and decay. Water dripped somewhere deeper in, a steady rhythm that echoed off unseen walls. Ryan settled his son against the back wall, far from the entrance. The boy's eyes had adjusted enough to see shadows, and fear lived in every breath he took. "Dad, I don't like it here." "I know, buddy, me neither, but we're safe for now." "Are the bad people still looking?" "Probably, but they won't find us." It was a lie, and Ryan suspected his son knew it. Children had instincts about these things, could smell fear the way animals could. But the boy accepted the lie because children also understood that sometimes adults lied to make the scary things bearable. Lena collapsed beside them, her back against stone, her hand pressed to the wound that refused to stop bleeding. In the dim light filtering from the cave mouth, her face looked gray, her lips bloodless. "How bad?" Ryan asked quietly. "Bad enough." She managed a weak smile. "Not dead yet, though. That's something." Ryan pulled emergency supplies from the pockets of his tactical pants, a small LED pen light, waterproof matches, a folding knife, 2 energy bars, and a half-empty water bottle. The sum total of their resources. He clicked on the pen light, set it on the cave floor between them. The wound looked worse in the light. The knife slash had definitely reopened during their flight, and the edges were inflamed. Infection was setting in, or would be soon. Without proper medical care, Lena had days at most, maybe less. "I need to get you to a hospital," Ryan said. "No hospitals. They'll be watching every emergency room within 100 miles. Lena's voice was steady despite the pain. "The Volkovs have people everywhere. Nurses, administrators, security guards. I check into a hospital. I'm dead within hours." "You stay here. You're dead within days." "Then I guess we'd better figure out how to end this in the next 72 hours. Ryan's son tugged on his sleeve. "Dad, what's wrong with her?" "She's hurt, buddy. Remember how you scraped your knee last month and we had to clean it and put a bandage on?" "Yeah. It's like that, but bigger." The boy seemed to accept this explanation. He reached over, gently patted Lena's arm with the kind of earnest sympathy only children could manage. "It's okay. My dad's really good at fixing things." Lena's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them away quickly, but not before Ryan saw the crack in her armor. This woman who'd faced down assassins and survived knife fights was undone by a child's kindness. "Thank you," she whispered. "What's your name?" The boy looked at Ryan, asking permission. Ryan nodded. "Ethan," the boy said, "like the spy in the movies." "That's a very cool name. I'm Lena." "I know. I heard my dad say it." Ethan settled closer to Ryan, still clutching Mr. Trunk. "Are you going to stay with us?" "For a little while, if that's okay." "It's okay. You seem nice. Not like the bad people." Ryan felt his throat tighten. His son's ability to find humanity in the middle of chaos was both beautiful and terrifying. It was the kind of innocence that could get you killed in this world. but it was also the kind of innocence worth dying to protect. "Lena," Ryan said, bringing them back to the immediate problem. "I need to know everything. No more partial truths, no more holding back. If we're going to survive this, I need to understand what we're really up against." She nodded slowly, wincing as the movement pulled at her wound. "What do you want to know?" "Start with the evidence. You said you uncovered financial records linking the Volkovs to $8 billion in illegal transactions. Where is it?" "Distributed. I'm not stupid enough to keep everything in one place." Lena shifted position, trying to find comfort that didn't exist. "I have encrypted files on servers in Iceland, physical documents in 3 safety deposit boxes across different states, and backup drives hidden in locations only I know. The information is structured so that no single piece is damning on its own, but together it's enough to dismantle their entire operation." "Who else knows about this?" "My supervisor at the firm where I worked. He's the one who assigned me to audit their shipping company in the first place. When I found the irregularities, I reported them. He told me to document everything and keep it quiet until we had enough to go to federal authorities." "And then?" "And then he was killed in a car accident 3 days later. Brake failure, they said. Tragic, but not suspicious." Her voice hardened. "Except I just emailed him a summary of my findings 12 hours before it happened. No way that's coincidence." Ryan processed the timeline. "So they knew someone was investigating them, but they didn't know who." "Not at first. I was careful, used encrypted communications, worked from remote locations, but eventually they connected the dots back to me." Lena's hand trembled against her wound. "They sent someone to my apartment 2 weeks ago, tried to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. I wasn't home. I'd already moved to a safe location. But they grabbed my laptop, my files, everything they could find, which told them you were onto them, and that I was smart enough to run." Ethan had been listening quietly, his eyes moving between the adults like he was watching a tennis match. Now he spoke up, his voice small but clear. "Why do the bad people want to hurt you?" Lena looked at the child, seemed to consider how to answer. "Because I know secrets they don't want anyone to know. Secrets about them doing bad things." "Like stealing?" "Like stealing, yes, and other bad things." "Can't you just tell the police?" "I tried, sweetheart. But these bad people have friends who work for the police, so I have to be very careful about who I trust." Ethan thought about this, his small face serious. Then he reached over and took Lena's hand in his own, a gesture of such simple kindness that Ryan felt his chest constrict. "You can trust my dad," Ethan said firmly. "He doesn't lie, and he always keeps his promises." Ryan wished that were entirely true. He'd lied to his son about being safe. He'd promised to protect him, but here they were hiding in a cave from killers. Every promise felt like sand slipping through his fingers, but Lena squeezed Ethan's hand gently. "I can see that. Your dad is a good man." "The best," Ethan agreed with absolute certainty. Ryan cleared his throat, uncomfortable with the praise he didn't deserve. The evidence alone isn't enough to make them back off. They're willing to kill to protect their operation, which means they think they can contain this. What's the trigger? What makes this evidence actually dangerous to them? Lena released Ethan's hand, leaned her head back against the stone. "There's a federal prosecutor in Seattle, Amanda Reeves. She's been building a RICO case against transnational organized crime for 2 years. If my evidence reaches her, she can freeze their assets, issue warrants, bring down the entire network, but it has to be delivered in person with verified chain of custody or they'll claim it's fabricated. And they know this. They know I've been trying to contact her. They've intercepted 3 of my attempts. That's why they're desperate to eliminate me before I can make the handoff. So we get you to Seattle. It's 400 miles, through territory they control, with me bleeding out and a child who needs protection." Lena's laugh was bitter. "Might as well be on the moon." Ryan's mind was already working through logistics, calculating routes and resources. 400 miles wasn't impossible. Difficult, dangerous, but not impossible. The question was how to move 3 people, 1 wounded, 1 a child, through hostile territory without being detected. "Marcus said he had a boat," Ryan said. "Before he couldn't finish the sentence. The grief was too fresh, too raw. "Before he died saving us," Lena finished quietly. "Yes, He said it was at a marina 3 miles south. If it's still there, if they haven't found it, we could use it. Can you navigate? I can read charts. Used to sail with my father when I was young. She coughed, tasted blood. But getting to the marina means getting past whoever's searching the cliffside, and I'm not sure I can walk 3 miles. Then I carry you. You're already carrying your son. I've carried heavier loads over longer distances. Ryan met her eyes. I'm not leaving you behind. You should. Tactically, it makes sense. Take Ethan, get to the boat, sail to safety. Leave me here. They find me. They stop searching for you. No. Ryan, be reasonable. I'm dead weight. I'm slowing you down, putting you and your son at risk. The smart play, Ryan interrupted, his voice hard, is keeping the person with the evidence alive long enough to use it. You die. That prosecutor in Seattle never gets what she needs, and the Volkovs win. Is that what you want? Lena fell silent, unable to argue the logic. Ethan, who'd been following the conversation with growing distress, spoke up again. We're not leaving her, Dad. That would be mean. I agree, buddy. Good. Ethan settled back against the cave wall, his decision made, his trust in his father absolute. Within minutes, exhaustion claimed him, and he slipped into sleep, Mr. Trunk tucked under his chin. Ryan envied the simplicity of his son's worldview. Good and bad, right and wrong, help the people who need help. No gray areas, no tactical calculations weighing lives against probabilities. But Ryan lived in the gray areas, had built a career in them, and right now the gray was closing in from all sides. Marcus, Lena said softly, you and he were close. Like brothers. I'm sorry I doubted him. At the end, She trailed off, unable to find adequate words. He kept his promise. That's what mattered to him. Ryan's voice was rough with suppressed emotion. He lived by a code. Loyalty above everything else. I thought he'd broken it when he worked for the Volkovs. Turns out he was just doing what contractors do, taking jobs where they pay well and don't ask questions. But when it came down to it, when I needed him, he was there. He died for people he barely knew. He died for me. You and Ethan were just part of the package. Ryan checked his watch. Nearly 7 a.m. Dawn would be breaking outside, burning away the mist, making them visible to anyone with a decent vantage point. We need to move soon. Another hour and the tide comes back in. We'll be trapped here. I know. Can you walk? Lena tested her weight, tried to stand. She made it halfway before her legs buckled. Ryan caught her, eased her back down. That's a no, she said through gritted teeth. Ryan did the math. He could carry Ethan or Lena, not both. The beach was exposed, no cover for 3 miles. If they were spotted, they'd never make it. But staying meant slow death from exposure or infection, or fast death when the hunters finally searched the caves. He was considering options when he heard it, the distant thrum of helicopter rotors. Ryan killed the pen light instantly, plunging them into darkness. He moved to the cave entrance, pressed himself against the rock, and peered out at the sky. The helicopter was running dark, no lights, just a black shape against the pre-dawn gray. It swept along the cliff face, a searchlight spearing down to illuminate the rocks and beach below. Military-grade bird, probably a Black Hawk or something similar. The kind of equipment that required serious money and connections. The Volkovs weren't playing anymore. The helicopter made one pass, then another, the searchlight probing every shadow, every hollow. Ryan pressed deeper into the cave, praying the entrance was obscured enough that thermal imaging wouldn't pick them up through the rock. The light swept past their position, moved on, came back. Ryan's heart hammered as the beam illuminated the boulders at the cave mouth, painting them stark white against black water. For 10 seconds that felt like hours, the light held position. Then it moved on, continuing south along the beach. Ryan waited until the sound of rotors faded completely before exhaling. They had minutes, maybe less, before the helicopter circled back or ground teams reached this section of beach. He returned to where Lena and Ethan waited in the darkness. His son was still sleeping somehow, his child's ability to find rest in chaos both amazing and heartbreaking. That was a military helicopter, Lena whispered. I know. The The Volkovs shouldn't have access to that kind of hardware. They shouldn't have access to a lot of things, but money buys everything, including official assets. Ryan knelt beside her, his mind made up. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hide you and Ethan deeper in this cave system. Then I'm going to scout ahead, find that boat, and come back for you. That's suicide. You'll be exposed on the beach with helicopter support overhead. I've operated in worse conditions, not while trying to protect a child, which is why I'm hiding him here with you. Ryan's voice left no room for argument. You're armed, you're trained, and even wounded, you're more capable than most people healthy. If anyone finds this cave, you defend Ethan until I get back. And if you don't come back, then you use that satellite phone in my safe room. You call Sarah Chen, Memory 1, and you tell her everything. She'll extract you and Ethan within hours. The safe room is in a house full of bodies and probably swarming with investigators by now. Then you find another way. You're resourceful. Ryan took the Glock from her, checked the magazine. 11 rounds. He handed it back. Make them count. Lena accepted the weapon, her fingers closing around the grip with familiar ease. Ryan, I need to tell you something before you go. Make it quick. Marcus wasn't just protecting you tonight. He was protecting information I gave him 6 months ago. She met his eyes in the darkness. When I first uncovered the Volkov operation, I needed someone with connections to help me understand what I was seeing. Marcus had worked in that world. He consulted for me, helped me trace the money, identify the players. That's how I knew about his history with them. Ryan felt the ground shift beneath him. You're saying you and Marcus were working together? Not working together. I hired him for his expertise, paid him well, and when he realized how deep the corruption went, he tried to convince me to drop it, said it was too dangerous, that I'd end up dead. Her voice dropped. I didn't listen. And tonight, he died cleaning up the mess I created. The revelation hit Ryan like a physical blow. Marcus hadn't just stumbled into this situation. He'd been involved from the beginning, had known exactly what Lena was uncovering, had tried to stop her, and failed. And when the consequences came calling, he'd stood in front of them anyway. Why didn't he tell me? Ryan asked. Because he knew you'd left that world behind. He didn't want to drag you back into it. But when the Volkovs targeted your house, he didn't have a choice. Lena's hand found Ryan's in the darkness. He loved you like a brother. He told me that. Said you were the only person he'd ever met who genuinely cared about doing the right thing, even when it cost you. Ryan's throat closed. The grief he'd been holding back threatened to overwhelm him. Marcus Webb, the man who'd pulled him from burning vehicles, who'd stood beside him through the worst humanity had to offer, who'd helped him build a home for his son, dead because he'd tried to protect them all. I'm going to make them pay, Ryan said quietly. Every single one of them. That's not your fight. It became my fight the moment they came to my home. Ryan stood, his decision crystallized into something hard and sharp. Stay here with Ethan. I'll be back within 2 hours. If I'm not, follow the contingency plan. Ryan, 2 hours, Lena. That's all I need. He moved deeper into the cave, found a chamber where the walls narrowed and the ceiling dropped low enough to provide real shelter. He laid Ethan down carefully, tucked Mr. Trunk beside him, covered him with the thermal blanket from his emergency kit. The boy stirred, mumbled something about breakfast, then settled back into sleep. Ryan kissed his forehead, whispered words he hoped weren't a lie. I'll be right back, buddy. I promise. Then he returned to Lena, helped her move to the inner chamber where she could watch over Ethan. He left her the pen light, the remaining energy bar, and the water bottle. 2 hours, he repeated. Good luck. Ryan slipped out of the cave into the pale gray light of dawn. The beach stretched before him, exposed and empty, the ocean hissing against rocks like a warning. The helicopter was somewhere to the south, its rotors a distant vibration more felt than heard. He started moving, staying close to the cliff wall where shadows still clung, his rifle ready, every sense heightened. The training came back like muscle memory, how to move silently, how to use terrain, how to become invisible in plain sight. He'd gone maybe half a mile when he saw the bodies. 3 of them, sprawled on the rocks near the waterline, 2 men in tactical gear, 1 woman in civilian clothes. All of them dead, executed with professional precision, single shots to the head, close range. Ryan approached carefully, checked the bodies. The men were part of the assault team from the house. He recognized the gear, the modified weapons. The woman was older, mid-50s, no visible weapons. A casualty maybe, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or a witness the Volkovs couldn't afford to leave alive. Ryan searched the tactical operators, found spare magazines, a radio, a smartphone, in a waterproof case. He pocketed all of it, kept moving. The marina came into view as he rounded a rocky outcropping. A small collection of floating docks, maybe 20 boats total, most of them fishing vessels or recreational sailboats. At the far end, standing out among the working boats, was a sleek 40-foot motor yacht. That had to be Marcus's extraction vessel. Ryan scanned the area for threats. The marina office was dark. No vehicles in the parking lot. Either it was too early for staff, or the Volkovs had already secured the location. He was about to move forward when the radio he'd taken crackled to life. A voice, professional and cold. "Ground teams report. Status." Another voice. "Team Alpha, beach sector clear. No contacts." "Team Bravo, cliff trail secure. Found blood trace but no bodies." "Team Charlie, cave systems. Multiple formations checking each one. Estimate 30 minutes to complete sweep." Ryan's blood ran cold. They were systematically clearing every possible hiding spot. Within 30 minutes, they'd find the cave where Lena and Ethan waited. He had to move faster. The marina's main dock extended 100 yards into the water. Ryan sprinted down it, his boots loud on the weathered wood, but speed more important than stealth now. He reached the yacht, found the cabin door locked, and kicked it open with a single blow. Inside was exactly what Marcus had promised. GPS navigation, full fuel tanks, satellite communications, keys in the ignition. The boat was ready to run. Ryan fired up the engines, felt them rumble to life with a throaty roar. He untied the mooring lines, threw them onto the dock, and was about to gun the throttle when he saw movement on shore. 4 men in tactical gear emerging from a black SUV, weapons raised, shouting orders he couldn't hear over the engines. Ryan didn't hesitate. He slammed the throttle forward, and the yacht leaped away from the dock with enough force to throw him against the helm. Bullets sparked off the fiberglass hull, shattered windows, tore through cushions. He steered hard to port, putting the cabin between himself and the shooters, and opened the throttle all the way. The yacht's twin engines screamed, driving the boat toward open water at 40 knots. Behind him, the shooters kept firing, but the range was opening too fast. Within seconds, he was beyond effective small arms distance. But now he had a new problem. He'd just stolen Marcus's boat and revealed his position to every Volkov asset in the area. The helicopter would be on him in minutes, and he'd abandoned Lena and Ethan to buy this escape. Ryan grabbed the yacht's radio, keyed the emergency frequency. "Any unit near Pacific Cliffs Marina, this is a civilian under armed attack. Multiple shooters, military-grade weapons. I need immediate law enforcement response." The radio hissed static. Then a response, professional and skeptical. "Civilian vessel, identify yourself and nature of emergency." "My name is Ryan Hale. Armed men just shot at me while I was boarding my boat. I have reason to believe they're connected to organized crime. I need help." A pause. Then, "Mr. Hale, remain calm. What is your current position?" Ryan read off GPS coordinates, gave a description of the shooters, made himself sound like a terrified civilian who'd stumbled into something he didn't understand. It was all a delaying tactic. The authorities would respond eventually, but their presence would make the Volkovs more cautious, force them to operate with restraint, which might buy Lena and Ethan just enough time. Ryan swung the yacht in a wide arc, heading north instead of south, drawing attention away from the cave. He pushed the engines to their limit, racing along the coast with the dawn sun breaking through clouds behind him. The helicopter appeared 3 minutes later, matching his speed, pacing him from 100 feet above. The searchlight stabbed down, painting the yacht in harsh white light. A loudspeaker crackled. "Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded." Ryan's answer was to push the throttle harder, coaxing another 2 knots out of the straining engines. The yacht wasn't built for this kind of abuse, but it held together, skimming across the water with spray flying. The helicopter dropped lower, the downdraft from its rotors whipping the ocean into chaos. Ryan gripped the wheel, fighting to keep control, knowing that one wrong move would flip the boat and end this chase instantly. Then he saw them. Two Coast Guard cutters, running lights flashing, responding to his emergency call. They were still miles out, but they were coming. The helicopter saw them too. The loudspeaker fell silent, and the aircraft veered away, climbing rapidly, disappearing into the cloud cover. The Volkovs couldn't risk engaging in front of official witnesses. Not yet. Not when it might expose their entire operation. Ryan had bought time. Not much, but enough. He angled the yacht back toward shore, toward a section of beach north of his property where the cliffs were lower and access easier. The Coast Guard was hailing him on the radio, demanding he maintain position and await boarding. He ignored them. The yacht's keel scraped sand as he drove it straight onto the beach in a maneuver that would have made any sailor weep. The boat shuddered, groaned, and ground to a halt 20 feet from dry land. Ryan killed the engines, grabbed a waterproof bag from the cabin's emergency supplies, and vaulted over the side. He splashed through thigh-deep water, hit the beach running, and didn't look back. Behind him, the Coast Guard cutters were closing in. Ahead, somewhere in the caves, his son and Lena waited. Ryan checked his watch. 1 hour and 40 minutes since he'd left them. He had 20 minutes to get back before they assumed he was dead and executed the contingency plan. 20 minutes to cover 3 miles of beach while being hunted by professionals. Ryan had faced worse odds. Barely. He started running, his boots pounding sand, his lungs burning, his thoughts fixed on one thing and one thing only. Get to Ethan. Keep him safe. Everything else was secondary. The beach blurred past, rocks and kelp and the endless hiss of surf. Ryan's body protested, muscles screaming from the night's violence. But he pushed through the pain. Pain meant he was alive, and alive meant he could still fight. He rounded the outcropping that marked the cave's location and stopped dead. 6 men in tactical gear stood on the beach, weapons raised, forming a perimeter around the cave entrance. And walking out of that entrance, hands raised in surrender, was Lena. She was alone. Ryan's finger moved to the trigger, his rifle already rising to sight on the nearest target. 6 men, 12 rounds in his magazine, maybe 3 seconds before they registered his presence and returned fire. The math was bad, but the alternative was watching Lena get executed on a beach while his son hid somewhere in the darkness behind her. Then he saw it. The way Lena held her hands, not quite at shoulder height. The angle of her body, subtly turned to keep the cave entrance blocked from view. The deliberate slowness of her steps, buying time with every breath. She wasn't surrendering, she was creating a distraction. Ryan dropped flat behind a boulder, using the scope to scan the tactical team's positioning. They were good, maintaining proper spacing, covering angles, but they were focused entirely on Lena. Their body language read confident, almost casual. They thought they'd won. The team leader stepped forward, a compact man with gray at his temples, and the kind of movements that spoke of decades doing violence. He wore no visible insignia, but the way the others deferred to him marked his authority. "Lena Moore," the man said, his voice carrying across the beach. "You've led us on quite a chase." "Sorry to inconvenience you." Lena's voice was steady, despite the blood soaking through her improvised bandage. "Though I have to say, 6 armed men versus 1 wounded woman seems like overkill. We prefer to be thorough. Where's the child?" Ryan's blood turned to ice. They knew about Ethan. Lena didn't flinch. "What child?" "Don't play games. Ryan Hale has a 6-year-old son. Security footage from his house showed 3 heat signatures during the initial assault. We found Hale's abandoned yacht 20 minutes ago, which means he's either dead or running. That leaves you and the boy." The team leader tilted his head. "So I'll ask again. Where is he?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Miss Moore, we're going to search that cave anyway. You can cooperate and make this easier, or you can be difficult and make it painful. Either way, we find the child." Ryan's mind raced through scenarios. He could engage now, try to take down as many as possible before they returned fire, but that would expose Ethan's location and put both civilians in the crossfire. He could retreat, try to flank around and hit them from a different angle, but that would take time they didn't have. Or he could trust that Lena had a plan. She swayed slightly, pressed her hand harder against her wound. "I need medical attention." "You'll get it. after you tell us where Ryan Hale hid his son. He didn't hide him with me. I don't even like children. Lena took another step forward, away from the cave entrance. Look, I'm dying here. That wound is infected. I'll trade information for a hospital. The team leader studied her with the flat assessment of a man evaluating merchandise. What information? The locations of all the evidence I collected. Every server, every safety deposit box, every backup drive. Complete documentation of the Volkov financial network. She coughed, a wet sound that wasn't entirely faked. But I need treatment first. Real treatment, not a bullet. You're in no position to negotiate terms. Sure I am. Kill me now, you get nothing. The evidence is encrypted with dead man switches. I don't check in every 12 hours. Everything gets automatically released to federal prosecutors, journalists, and Interpol. Lena smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. So unless you want to explain to your employers how you triggered the very exposure you were sent to prevent, you need me alive and cooperative. The team leader's expression didn't change, but Ryan saw his jaw tighten fractionally. Lena had found the pressure point. Even if that's true, the man said slowly, we still need the child. He's a witness, and witnesses are liabilities. He's 6 years old. What's he going to testify to? That some men in masks scared him? Lena shook her head. He's not a threat. I'm the threat. Focus on what matters. Where is Ryan Hale? Dead, probably. Last I saw, he was running toward your helicopter with about 15 of your people chasing him. I took my chances in the cave. He took his on the beach. She gestured vaguely north. I heard shooting maybe an hour ago. Didn't sound like it went well for him. It was a good lie, delivered with just enough exhaustion to sell it. Ryan almost believed it himself. The team leader pulled out a radio. Command, this is Ground Alpha. We have the primary target. Confirm status on secondary. Static, then a response. Secondary target engaged Coast Guard near Marina, then beached the extraction vessel and fled on foot. Lost visual in coastal terrain. Pursuit ongoing. Copy that. Maintain pursuit. Ground Alpha is securing primary and searching for the miner. He clipped the radio back, turned to his team. Martinez Chen, clear that cave. If you find the child, bring him out unharmed. Everyone else, maintain perimeter. 2 operators moved toward the cave entrance, weapons raised, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Ryan's heart hammered against his ribs. If they found the inner chamber, if Ethan made a sound, if the thermal imaging picked up his heat signature through the rock, he couldn't let them get that far. Ryan rose from behind the boulder, rifle steady, and fired. The first round took Martinez in the head, dropping him instantly. The second caught Chen in the throat as he spun toward the sound. Both men went down before their teammates could process what was happening. Then chaos erupted. The remaining 4 operators scattered, returning fire, their rounds kicking up sand and sparking off rocks around Ryan's position. He rolled left, came up behind a different boulder, fired twice more. 1 round missed. The second caught an operator in the shoulder, spinning him but not dropping him. 3.5 left. Bad odds getting worse. Lena moved during the confusion, diving to the side and scooping up Martinez's fallen rifle. She came up firing despite her wound, her shots precise and controlled. Another operator went down, clutching his leg. 2.5. The team leader was shouting into his radio, calling for backup, trying to coordinate his people while under fire from 2 directions. He was good, keeping his head, but even good training couldn't overcome being caught in a crossfire. Ryan pushed forward, using smoke grenades he'd taken from the yacht to obscure the battlefield. White smoke billowed across the beach, turning everything into shifting shadows and confusion. He moved through it like a ghost, years of combat experience guiding him. He found the wounded operator trying to crawl to cover and put a round through his head. No mercy, no hesitation. These men had come for his son. A figure emerged from the smoke to his right. Ryan spun, nearly fired, recognized Lena at the last instant. She was covered in blood, her movements sluggish, but her eyes were clear and focused. Ethan? Ryan demanded. Safe. I moved him deeper when I heard them coming. They won't find him without me. Can you fight? I can shoot. Fighting might be optimistic. Gunfire erupted from their left. The team leader and 1 remaining operator laying down suppressive fire, trying to break contact and retreat. Smart move. They were outnumbered and outmaneuvered, and staying meant dying. But Ryan couldn't let them escape. They'd seen Ethan's hiding spot, knew about the cave. They'd come back with more men, heavier weapons, and Ryan would be right back where he started. "Cover me," Ryan said. He didn't wait for acknowledgement, just charged through the smoke toward the sound of gunfire. The team leader saw him coming, swung his weapon around, but Ryan was already moving, closing the distance too fast for aimed fire. They collided hard, going down together in a tangle of limbs and weaponry. Ryan drove his elbow into the man's face, felt bone crack. The team leader responded with a knee to Ryan's ribs, then a headbutt that made Ryan's vision spark. They rolled apart, both coming up simultaneously. The team leader had lost his rifle, but had a knife in his hand, military issue, deadly. Ryan had his own blade pulled from the sheath on his vest. They circled each other, professionals evaluating opponents, looking for openings. "You should have run," the team leader said. Blood streamed from his broken nose. "You could have taken your son and disappeared. Instead, you chose to die for a woman you barely know. She was under my roof. That makes her my responsibility." Noble. Stupid, but noble. The team leader feinted left, struck right, the blade whistling past Ryan's ribs by inches. The Volkovs don't forgive, and they don't forget. You made yourself a target tonight. Even if you survive this, they'll hunt you forever. Let them try. They clashed again, knives flashing, both men bleeding from shallow cuts. The team leader was good. Trained in the same schools Ryan had attended, operating with the same lethal efficiency. But he was fighting for money, and Ryan was fighting for his son. That made all the difference. Ryan saw the opening, a fraction of a second when the team leader overcommitted to a thrust. He parried, twisted, and drove his blade up under the man's ribs, angling for the heart. The team leader gasped, his eyes going wide. You don't even know what you've done." "I've protected my family. That's all that matters." The light faded from the man's eyes. He collapsed, dead before he hit the sand. Ryan stood over the body, breathing hard, his knife dripping red. Around him, the smoke was clearing, revealing the aftermath. 6 bodies scattered across the beach, the ocean washing away blood with each wave. Lena stumbled out of the smoke, still clutching the rifle. She looked at the carnage, at Ryan covered in blood, and something like fear flickered across her face. "Is this what you were?" she asked quietly. "Before you retired? This is what I had to be, to survive. And now? Now I get my son and we figure out what comes next." Ryan moved past her toward the cave. "Can you walk?" "Barely." "Then lean on me." They made their way to the cave entrance together, Ryan supporting Lena's weight. Inside, the darkness was absolute, but Ryan's penlight was still where he'd left it, glowing softly in the inner chamber. Ethan was exactly where Lena had hidden him, tucked behind a rock formation, Mr. Trunk clutched to his chest. When he saw Ryan, his small face crumpled with relief. "Dad!" Ryan scooped him up, held him tight, felt the boy's heartbeat against his own. Alive. Safe. Nothing else mattered. "I was so scared," Ethan whispered into Ryan's neck. "I know, buddy. But it's over now. The bad people are gone." "All of them?" Ryan thought of the helicopter, the pursuit teams, the vast organization that had sent these men. The ones who were here, yes, were safe for now. Lena slumped against the cave wall, her strength finally giving out. "Ryan, we need to move. They called for backup. More will come." "How long do we have?" "Minutes. Maybe less." She coughed, blood flecking her lips. "I'm sorry. I tried to lead them away, but they were too organized. They knew about Ethan, knew we'd hidden him. Someone's been feeding them information." Ryan's mind clicked through possibilities. The assault on his house had been too precise, too targeted. They'd known his security setup, his defensive positions, his contingency plans. Marcus had suspected a leak, had tried to warn him. And Marcus was dead because of it. "We'll figure out who later," Ryan said. "Right now, we run." He helped Lena to her feet, his son in one arm, supporting her with the other. They emerged from the cave into morning sunlight, the beach washed clean by the tide, no sign of the violence except the bodies and the blood. In the distance, Ryan heard sirens. The Coast Guard had reported the beached yacht, and local law enforcement was responding. That would complicate things, but it also meant the Volkovs would have to operate more carefully. "The boat," Lena said. "Can we still use it?" "It's grounded on a beach a mile north. Even if we could refloat it, they'll be watching." "Then how do we get to Seattle?" Ryan pulled out the smartphone he'd taken from the dead operator, powered it on. The screen showed an encrypted messaging app, active conversations with call signs and coordinates. He scrolled through, his tactical mind processing information, forming a plan. "These guys were coordinating with a command post," he said. "Location is about 10 miles inland. They've got vehicles, communications equipment, probably a small arsenal. You want to attack their base?" "I want to take what we need to get to Seattle. They won't expect us to go on offense." Ryan met her eyes. "Can you shoot?" "I can barely stand." "That's not what I asked." Lena managed a weak smile. "I can shoot." "Then let's go steal a car." They moved north along the beach, staying low, using terrain for cover. Ethan had gone quiet again, his small body tense but trusting. Ryan whispered reassurances, told him they were playing a game, that everything would be okay. More lies, but necessary ones. The beached yacht came into view, surrounded by Coast Guard personnel examining the scene. Ryan gave it a wide berth, leading them inland through scrub brush and stunted trees. His sense of direction, honed by years navigating hostile territory, kept them on course even without GPS. 20 minutes of hard walking brought them to a service road. Ryan used the smartphone to check their position against the coordinates in the command post conversations. 2 miles east, then north on the main highway. A vehicle approached, an old pickup truck rattling down the service road. Ryan flagged it down, his rifle hidden behind his leg, his bloody tactical gear concealed by Lena standing in front. The driver was an elderly man, weathered and kind-eyed. He rolled down his window. "You folks okay? You look lost." "Car broke down about a mile back," Ryan said, manufacturing exhaustion. "My wife's not feeling well, and our son's getting scared. Any chance we could catch a ride to the nearest town?" The old man studied them, his gaze lingering on Lena's pale face and the way she leaned against Ryan. Whatever he saw, it convinced him. "Hop in the back. I'm heading to Newport. That work for you?" "Perfect. Thank you so much." They climbed into the truck bed, Ryan positioning himself so his body blocked any view of their weapons or blood-stained clothes. Ethan curled against him, finally, allowing himself to cry silently, his small shoulders shaking. The truck rolled forward, carrying them away from the beach, from the bodies, from the immediate danger. Lena closed her eyes, her breathing shallow. That was easier than it should have been. People want to help. Most of them, anyway. Ryan stroked Ethan's hair, tried to offer comfort he wasn't sure he could deliver. "We've got maybe an hour before the authorities start connecting dots. Beached yacht, dead operators on a beach, missing persons. They'll lock down the area." "What's the plan?" "We get to the command post before they realize their beach team is dead. We take their vehicle, their equipment, and anything else useful. Then we drive to Seattle and get your evidence to that prosecutor." "That's not a plan. That's suicide with extra steps." "You have a better idea?" Lena opened her eyes, looked at Ryan with something that might have been respect or might have been pity. "You know this doesn't end with one handoff, right? Even if we get the evidence to Amanda Reeves, even if she brings charges, the Volkovs will keep coming. They don't stop until the threat is eliminated." "Then we eliminate them first." "We're 3 people, one of us a child, one of us dying. They're a transnational crime syndicate with unlimited resources." David beat Goliath. David had divine intervention. What do we have? Ryan looked at his son, at the child who'd trusted him absolutely, who'd faced down terror with courage because he believed his father would protect him. What they had was something the Volkovs would never understand. "We have everything to lose," Ryan said. "That makes us more dangerous than they know." The truck carried them through coastal forest, the morning sun burning away the last of the mist. Ryan used the time to clean his weapons, reload magazines, mentally prepare for what came next. Lena dozed fitfully, her body trying to heal what couldn't be healed without proper medical intervention. Ethan fell asleep against Ryan's chest, exhausted beyond words. In sleep, his face was peaceful, innocent, untouched by the violence that had marked the last 12 hours of his life. Ryan prayed it would stay that way. The old man dropped them at the edge of Newport, a small coastal town just waking up to Saturday morning. Families heading to breakfast, fishermen returning from early runs, the normal rhythm of life undisturbed by the fact that 6 men had died violently just miles away. Ryan thanked the driver, helped Lena down from the truck bed. They found a gas station with a bathroom, and Ryan used it to clean up as best he could. The tactical gear went into a dumpster, replaced by a jacket and baseball cap he bought from the station's convenience store. Not perfect, but better than walking around looking like a soldier. Lena changed her bandage using supplies from a first aid kit Ryan purchased. The wound looked worse in the harsh fluorescent light, angry and inflamed. She needed antibiotics, stitches, probably surgery. She'd get none of it until this was over. "How far to the command post?" she asked. Ryan checked the smartphone. 8 miles. We need a car." Stealing a car in broad daylight with a child is going to attract attention. "Then we don't steal, we rent." Ryan pulled out a credit card from his wallet, one he'd kept for emergencies. It was registered to a shell identity, clean and untraceable. "Wait here." He walked to a small rental agency 3 blocks away, his son drowsy in his arms. The clerk was a college kid, bored and half asleep. Ryan spun a story about a family emergency, his wallet stolen, needing to get his sick wife to her mother's house. 15 minutes later, he drove away in a nondescript sedan, the kind of vehicle that disappeared in traffic. He picked up Lena, settled Ethan in the back seat with strict instructions to stay low and quiet, and headed inland. The command post coordinates led to an industrial park on the outskirts of Newport. Warehouses and distribution centers, mostly empty on a Saturday morning. Ryan parked 2 blocks away, scanned the area with binoculars he'd taken from one of the dead operators. The target building was a 2-story warehouse at the end of a cul-de-sac. 2 vehicles parked outside, both black SUVs with tinted windows. No visible security, but Ryan knew better than to assume that meant no security. "I count at least 4 personnel based on the vehicles," he said. "Probably more inside." "We're going to assault a fortified position with 1 rifle, 1 pistol, and a woman who can barely walk," Lena said flatly. "Unless you want to knock on the front door and ask nicely for a car." She almost smiled. "Actual assault it is then," Ryan turned to his son. "Ethan, I need you to be very brave right now, even braver than before." "Okay, Dad. I'm going to leave you in this car with the doors locked. If anyone except me or Lena comes near, you hide on the floor and don't make a sound. Can you do that?" Ethan's lower lip trembled, but he nodded. "Will you come back?" "I promise." "You already promised that before." "And I came back, didn't I?" Ryan kissed his forehead. "I'll always come back for you, buddy. Always." He locked the car, hid the keys under the front wheel well, and moved toward the warehouse with Lena limping beside him. She'd insisted on coming despite her condition, and Ryan had learned that arguing with her was pointless. They approached from the north, using parked vehicles and dumpsters for cover. Ryan counted windows, noted sight lines, built a tactical picture. The warehouse had a main entrance on the east side, a loading dock on the west, and emergency exits on the north and south. Standard security would cover the main entrance and loading dock. Emergency exits were usually alarmed but less monitored. Ryan chose the south exit. He picked the lock in under 30 seconds, disabled the alarm with wire cutters and electrical knowledge from his contractor days. The door swung open silently, revealing a dimly lit hallway. They moved inside, weapons ready, every sense alert. The warehouse interior was divided into offices and storage areas. Ryan heard voices from the main floor, at least 3 people talking in low tones. He crept closer, using a catwalk above for observation. 4 men sat around a table, studying laptops and maps. One of them was on a radio, coordinating with teams in the field. Ryan recognized the voice from earlier. This was the command element, the people directing the hunt. Taking them out would decapitate the local operation, at least temporarily. Ryan signaled Lena, pointed to positions. She nodded, understanding, moved to cover the north approach while Ryan circled to the south. He gave her 30 seconds to get in place, then opened fire. The first 3 rounds took down 2 targets before they could react. The 3rd man dove for cover, reaching for his weapon. The 4th man, the one on the radio, scrambled toward an alarm panel on the wall. Ryan shot him through the shoulder, not killing but incapacitating. The man screamed, clutched his wound, fell. The remaining operator returned fire from behind a desk, rounds punching through drywall and computer equipment. Lena fired from her position, flanking him, forcing him to choose which threat to address. He chose wrong. Ryan's bullet caught him in the side of the head, and he dropped without a sound. 3 down, 1 wounded. Ryan approached the wounded man carefully, kicked away his weapon, pressed the rifle barrel against his forehead. "How many people know about this location?" Ryan demanded. The man glared up at him, defiant. "Go to hell." Wrong answer. Ryan adjusted his aim, shot the man's other shoulder. The scream was satisfying in its way, not because Ryan enjoyed inflicting pain, but because every sound meant his son was still alive, still safe. "How many?" Ryan repeated. 6. 6 teams. They're all converging on the coast, looking for you and the woman. Where? Beach sectors, marinas, anywhere you might try to escape by water. Who's running the operation? The man's eyes widened. I can't. Ryan moved the rifle barrel to the man's knee. Last chance. Victor Volkov himself. He came from Moscow when he heard about the evidence. He's running this personally. Ryan absorbed this information. Viktor Volkov was the head of the entire organization, rarely left Russia, almost never involved himself directly in operations. If he was here, it meant this wasn't just about silencing Lena, it was about sending a message. "Where's Victor now?" Ryan asked. "Private airfield, 20 miles north. He's waiting for confirmation of the kill before he flies back out." "How many people with him?" 12. Maybe 15. All professionals. Ryan looked at Lena, saw her pale face, her shaking hands. They'd won this engagement, but the cost was mounting. She was fading, her body shutting down from blood loss and infection. And somewhere 20 miles north, the man responsible for all of this waited in comfort, surrounded by guards. The unfairness of it all hit Ryan like a wave. Marcus dead, Ethan traumatized, Lena dying, and the architect of this violence got to walk away clean. No, not this time. "Keys to the vehicles outside," Ryan said to the wounded man. "Now!" The man gestured weakly toward the table. Ryan found 2 sets of keys, pocketed both. "Lena, can you drive?" "I can try." "You're going to take one of those SUVs and head to Seattle. When you get there, go directly to the federal courthouse and ask for Amanda Reeves. Tell her everything." "What about you?" "I'm going to that airfield." Lena stared at him. "That's suicide. They'll kill you." "Probably. But Viktor Volkov doesn't get to order the death of my friends and walk away. He doesn't get to threaten my son and face no consequences." Ryan's voice was ice. "Someone has to make him understand that actions have costs." "Ryan, this isn't your fight. This is my evidence, my responsibility. It became my fight the moment Marcus died protecting us. The moment they came for Ethan." He handed her 1 set of keys. "Get the evidence to Seattle. Make sure this wasn't for nothing." "And Ethan?" Ryan's heart clenched. Leaving his son, even temporarily, went against every instinct he had. But taking him to an assault on a fortified airfield was unthinkable. "He stays with you. You protect him until I get back. And if you don't come back, then you raise him. Teach him to be brave, to be kind, to fight for what's right, even when it costs everything." Ryan pulled out the satellite phone from his emergency kit, programmed a number. "If I'm not back in 4 hours, you call this number. Sarah Chen will take care of you both." Lena took the phone, her hand trembling. "You're really going to do this?" "I don't have a choice. These people need to learn that some lines can't be crossed without consequences. You're one man. I've been one man before. It's enough." They walked out of the warehouse together, 2 wounded survivors carrying the weight of impossible decisions. The SUVs sat waiting, black and anonymous, engines ready. Ryan opened the back door of the rental car where Ethan waited. His son looked up, eyes red from crying. "Dad, you're back!" "I told you I would be." Ryan lifted him out, held him close. "Buddy, I need you to do something very important for me. I need you to go with Lena." "No." The response was immediate, panicked. "I want to stay with you." "I know, but this is important. Lena needs your help getting somewhere safe, and I need to finish something. I'll meet you there as soon as I can." "You're lying. You're going to fight the bad people, and you might not come back." The accusation hurt because it was true. Ryan had never lied to his son about the important things, and he wouldn't start now. "You're right," he said quietly. "I might not come back. But if I don't go, the bad people will keep hunting us. They'll never stop. And I can't let that happen." Ethan's small face crumpled. "I don't want you to go." "I don't want to go either. But sometimes being a dad means doing the hard things to keep you safe." Ryan kissed his son's forehead, tasted salt from the boy's tears. "I love you more than anything in this world. Remember that." "I love you too, Dad." Ryan transferred Ethan to Lena's arms, ignoring the way his son clutched at him, the way his heart shattered with every sob. This was the cost of protection. This was what it meant to be a father in a world with sharp edges. "Take care of him," Ryan said to Lena, "with my life." "I know." He watched them drive away, his son's tear-stained face pressed against the rear window, one small hand raised in goodbye. Then Ryan climbed into the second SUV, loaded his weapons, and pointed the vehicle north toward an airfield where a monster waited. He had 4 hours to kill Viktor Volkov and make it back alive. The odds were impossibly bad. But for his son, Ryan would attempt the impossible. The airfield appeared through morning haze like something from another era, a relic of small-town aviation before the world consolidated into major hubs. One runway, 2 hangars, a control tower that hadn't seen use in decades, the kind of place where private jets landed without questions and departed without paperwork. Ryan parked the SUV a half-mile out, concealed behind an abandoned grain silo, and surveyed the target through binoculars. A Gulfstream G650 sat on the tarmac, sleek and expensive, worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. 3 black SUVs identical to the one he'd stolen were arranged in a defensive perimeter around it. He counted 14 visible personnel, all armed, all moving with the disciplined efficiency of military contractors. They weren't expecting trouble, but they were prepared for it. Good training, expensive equipment, confident in their numerical superiority. They'd never met a father with nothing left to lose. Ryan checked his weapons. The rifle had 2 magazines remaining, 24 rounds total. The pistol held 11, 35 bullets against 14 men, with the assumption that Viktor Volkov himself would be inside the aircraft, probably with additional close protection. The math was worse than bad. It was suicidal. But suicide missions had one advantage. The enemy never planned for someone crazy enough to attempt them. Ryan pulled out the smartphone he'd taken from the dead operator, scrolled through the encrypted messages until he found what he needed. The command structure, call signs, protocols. He composed a message mimicking the style and format. Ground Alpha to Command. Primary target secured. Minor neutralized. Awaiting extraction instructions. He hit send, watched the message go through. 30 seconds later, a response came back. Acknowledged. Maintain position. Command will dispatch cleanup crew to your location. ETA, 30 minutes. Ryan smiled without humor. They'd bought it. Which meant for the next 30 minutes, Victor's security team would be relaxed, confident the hunt was over. That was all the opening Ryan needed. He moved through the tall grass surrounding the airfield, approaching from the west where the sun would be in the guard's eyes. His body remembered this. The careful placement of feet, the controlled breathing, the patience to wait for the perfect moment. Afghanistan had taught him these skills. Iraq had refined them. And now, on American soil, he would use them one final time. The first guard never saw him coming. Ryan took him from behind, knife through the base of the skull, lowering the body silently to the ground. The second guard was harder, more alert. But Ryan used the angle of the sun and a suppressed pistol shot that sounded like nothing more than a cough. 2 down, 12 to go. He claimed the second guard's radio, clipped it to his belt, and continued circling the perimeter. The guards were rotating in pairs, professional but predictable. Every 12 minutes, they'd complete a circuit and return to their starting positions. Ryan waited until the next pair passed, then dropped them both with rapid pistol shots. The suppressor kept the noise minimal, but not silent. Somewhere across the tarmac, a guard's head turned, scanning for the source. Ryan froze. Became part of the landscape, a shadow among shadows. The guard stared for 10 seconds, then dismissed it as nerves and returned to his position. 4 down. 10 to go. The radio crackled. Perimeter check, all stations report. North sector, clear. East sector, clear. South sector, clear. Silence where the west sector should have responded. West sector, report. More silence. Ryan heard the change in posture, the heightened alertness. They knew something was wrong now, even if they didn't know what. Within seconds, they'd find the bodies and lock down the entire airfield. No more time for subtlety. Ryan pulled a smoke grenade from his tactical vest, armed it, and threw it toward the center of the tarmac. White smoke billowed out, obscuring vision, turning the airfield into a maze of shifting shadows. Then he charged. The remaining guards converged on the smoke, weapons raised, coordinating over their radios. Ryan hit them from the side, rifle on full automatic, emptying his magazine into the confused mass of bodies. 3 went down before the others scattered, returning fire. Bullets cracked past Ryan's head, punched through the smoke, forced him to dive behind one of the parked SUVs. He reloaded, blind-fired over the hood to keep them suppressed, then rolled left as concentrated fire shredded the vehicle behind him. 7 down, 7 to go. A guard rushed his position, trying to flank. Ryan shot him twice in the chest, once in the head. The man dropped, his weapon clattering across asphalt. 6 to go. The smoke was clearing now, burned away by coastal wind. Ryan was exposed, caught in the open with minimal cover and superior numbers closing in. He sprinted toward the nearest hangar, took fire from 3 directions, felt a round graze his shoulder, another tear through his pant leg. He made it inside as bullets sparked off the hangar's metal frame. The interior was dark, filled with maintenance equipment and old aircraft parts. Ryan used the shadows, moved deeper into the structure, forcing them to come to him. In the dark, on unfamiliar ground, numbers mattered less than experience. 2 guards entered together, flashlights cutting through the gloom. Ryan waited until they separated, then took them both with careful shots. Their bodies hit the floor with heavy thuds. 4 to go. The remaining guards were smarter, hanging back, waiting for Ryan to show himself. But time was Ryan's enemy now. Every second wasted was a second Viktor Volkov could escape, could call for reinforcements, could slip away to safety. Ryan pulled his last smoke grenade, threw it toward the hangar entrance, then fired his remaining rifle rounds through the smoke at chest height. Screams told him he'd hit at least 1 target. 3 to go. Maybe 2. He dropped the empty rifle, drew his pistol, and moved. The remaining guards had taken cover behind a fuel truck outside the hangar. Smart positioning, good discipline. They were calling for backup on their radios, reporting the situation, buying time. Ryan couldn't give them that time. He circled around, using the hangars for cover, approaching from their blind side. When he had the angle, he fired methodically, each shot placed with the precision of someone who'd trained for this scenario 1,000 times. 1 guard went down. The second spun, returned fire, clipped Ryan's vest. The impact staggered him, but didn't penetrate. Ryan recovered, fired twice more, and the second guard dropped. 2 down. 1 or 2 remaining, position unknown. Ryan's pistol had 3 rounds left. He approached the Gulfstream carefully, expecting resistance. The aircraft's door was open, stairs deployed. No movement visible, but that meant nothing. Ryan climbed the stairs, weapon raised, every muscle coiled for violence. The interior was luxury incarnate. Leather seats, polished wood, technology embedded in every surface. And at the far end of the cabin, seated calmly with a glass of vodka in his hand, was Viktor Volkov. Mid-60s, silver-haired, dressed in a suit that cost more than Ryan's destroyed house. He looked like a banker or a diplomat, not the architect of international crime. But his eyes were old, flat, the eyes of someone who'd ordered deaths the way other people ordered coffee. 2 bodyguards flanked him, weapons drawn but not pointed. They were waiting for Victor's signal, professionals who understood their employer liked to talk before ordering executions. "Mr. Hale," Victor said in lightly accented English, "you've caused quite a bit of trouble today." Ryan kept his pistol trained on Victor's head. Your people came to my home, threatened my son. That was a mistake. Was it? From my perspective, you harbored a fugitive, killed my employees, and disrupted a legitimate business operation. Victor sipped his vodka, utterly unconcerned with the weapon pointed at him. These are not the actions of a peaceful man. Legitimate business. That's what you call trafficking and murder? I call it capitalism. I provide services people want, move products to where they're needed, facilitate transactions that governments pretend don't exist. He set down his glass. You were a contractor once. You understand how the world actually works. I understood that some lines shouldn't be crossed. Lines? Victor smiled. Lines are illusions, Mr. Hale, inventions of the weak to constrain the strong. You crossed more lines in your career than I ever have. The difference is, I was honest about it. Ryan's finger tightened on the trigger. Where's the rest of your security? I sent them to deal with the woman and your son. They should have them in custody within the hour. Victor's smile widened at Ryan's expression. Did you think I believed that message from your stolen phone? I've survived 40 years in this business by trusting no one and verifying everything. The moment I received that message, I knew it was a deception. Ice flooded Ryan's veins. Lena and Ethan, driving toward Seattle, thinking they were safe. And Victor's people were already moving to intercept them. You're lying. Am I? Call them if you like. Oh wait, you can't. Because you're standing here pointing a gun at me while the people you actually care about die alone on a highway. Victor leaned forward. You made the wrong choice, Mr. Hale. You should have protected your son instead of seeking revenge. The words hit like bullets, each one finding flesh. Ryan had gambled everything on this assault, had trusted that Victor would be here, vulnerable, while Lena got Ethan to safety. But Victor had outmaneuvered him, had predicted his choice, used it against him, and now Ethan would pay the price for Ryan's pride. Kill him, Victor said to his bodyguards. The guards raised their weapons, began to squeeze their triggers. Ryan dove left, fired his remaining 3 rounds. One caught the first guard in the throat, the second went wide, the third hit the second guard's shoulder. Not lethal, but enough to ruin his aim. Return fire shredded the cabin, tore through leather and wood. Ryan rolled, came up empty-handed, his pistol slide locked back on an empty magazine. The wounded guard advanced, weapon steady despite his injury, preparing to end this. Ryan grabbed a crystal decanter from the bar, hurled it at the man's face. The guard flinched, and Ryan closed the distance, drove his knife into the man's gut, twisted, pulled up. The guard gasped, fired reflexively, rounds punching through the cabin ceiling. They went down together in a tangle of blood and violence. Ryan came up on top, ripped the weapon from the dying man's hands, and turned toward Victor. The criminal was already moving toward the cockpit, surprisingly fast for his age. Ryan fired, but the angle was wrong. The shot went wide. Victor made it through the cockpit door, slammed it shut. Ryan heard the engines begin to spool up. He was going to take off, escape, and Ryan would be trapped on a plane with no pilot, no way to stop it. Ryan charged the cockpit door, shoulder-checked it, felt it give slightly but hold. Reinforced, designed to withstand hijacking attempts. The engines reached takeoff power. Through the cabin windows, Ryan saw the tarmac beginning to move. He fired the remaining rounds from the guard's weapon into the door's lock mechanism, then kicked with everything he had. The door burst inward. Victor sat in the pilot's seat, headset on, hands moving over controls with practiced competence. He glanced back at Ryan, and for the first time, fear flickered in those flat eyes. You'll kill us both, Victor said. I'm okay with that. Ryan lunged forward, grabbed Victor by the collar, and hauled him out of the seat. They crashed into the narrow cockpit, fists flying, each fighting with the desperation of men who knew death was seconds away. The aircraft was accelerating down the runway, pilotless, veering toward the grass. Ryan drove his elbow into Victor's face, felt bone crack. The older man responded with a headbutt that opened a gash above Ryan's eye. They grappled, trading blows in the confined space, both covered in blood. My people will kill your son, Victor hissed. Even if you kill me, they'll hunt him forever. He'll never be safe. Then I'd better make sure you stay alive long enough to call them off. Ryan got his hands around Victor's throat, squeezed. Not to kill, but to subdue. The criminal thrashed, clawed at Ryan's face, fought with the strength of self-preservation. The aircraft hit the grass, bounced, skidded. Ryan lost his grip, was thrown against the bulkhead. Victor scrambled for the controls, trying to abort the takeoff. Too late. The Gulfstream's landing gear caught a drainage ditch, and the entire aircraft pitched forward, nosediving into Earth with the sound of tearing metal and shattering glass. Ryan was thrown forward, slammed into the instrument panel, felt ribs crack. The aircraft ground to a halt, smoke pouring from damaged engines, fuel leaking onto grass. Ryan hauled himself upright, tasted blood, felt the damage assessment his body was running. Concussion likely, broken ribs definitely, lacerations everywhere. But mobile, still functional. Victor lay crumpled in the co-pilot seat, unconscious but breathing, blood streaming from a head wound. Ryan grabbed the criminal's phone from his pocket, found the encrypted messaging app, and composed a message to all Volkov units. This is Victor Volkov. Abort all operations immediately. The woman and child are under my protection. Anyone who harms them will answer to me personally. Confirm receipt and stand down. He hit send from Victor's phone, watched the responses come in. Confirmed. Standing down. Unit 3 acknowledges, breaking off pursuit. Unit 7 confirmed, returning to base. Ryan waited until all units had checked in, then pocketed the phone. He zip-tied Victor's hands with restraints from the dead bodyguard's belt, then dragged the unconscious criminal out of the wrecked aircraft. Sirens approached in the distance. The firefight and crash had drawn attention, and emergency services were responding. Ryan had minutes before this became exponentially more complicated. He pulled out the satellite phone, dialed the number he'd given Lena. She answered on the first ring. Ryan? It's me. Where are you? About 40 miles from Seattle. We're safe. The pursuit broke off 15 minutes ago. No explanation. They just stopped. Her voice cracked with relief. Is Ethan? He's with you, right? Yes. He's asleep. We're okay, Ryan. Are you? I'm alive. Victor Volkov is in custody. It's over. Silence on the line. Then, quietly, what did you do? What needed to be done? Get the evidence to Amanda Reeves. Make this count. And you? Ryan looked at the approaching emergency vehicles, the wrecked aircraft, the bodies scattered across the airfield. I've got some explaining to do, but I'll be fine. Ryan, thank you for everything, for protecting us, for protect my son until I get there. That's all the thanks I need. He ended the call before she could respond, then dialed a second number. One he'd kept for emergencies, one he'd hoped never to use. Sarah Chen answered with her usual efficiency. Ryan, I was wondering when you'd call. I need a favor. You need a team of lawyers and a media strategy. I've been watching the news. You're all over it. Stolen yacht, dead contractors, assault on a private airfield. Her tone was dry. Subtle as always. Can you help? I'm already on my way. Don't talk to anyone until I arrive. And Ryan? Her voice softened. Is Ethan safe? He's safe. Then everything else is manageable. Sit tight. I'll clean this up. The first police cruiser arrived as Ryan was sitting on the tarmac, hands visible, Victor Volkov unconscious beside him. Officers approached with weapons drawn, shouting orders. Ryan complied with everything. Let them cuff him. Let them read rights he barely heard. His mind was 40 miles south with his son, praying this gamble had been worth it. 3 hours later, Ryan sat in an interrogation room with Sarah Chen beside him and 2 federal agents across the table. Sarah had arrived like a force of nature, armed with credentials that made local law enforcement defer to federal jurisdiction and lawyers who made prosecutors nervous. The agents played the recording of Ryan's call requesting Coast Guard assistance, showed photographs of the bodies on the beach, in the warehouse, at the airfield. 14 dead, multiple federal laws broken, enough charges to put Ryan away for life. Then they played a second recording. Lena Moore's testimony, delivered directly to Amanda Reeves 90 minutes ago. 8 billion in documented transactions, names, dates, account numbers. Everything needed to dismantle the Volkov organization from the inside. Your son is safe, by the way, the lead agent said. We have him in protective custody with Miss Moore. He's asking for you. Ryan's shoulders sagged with relief. Here's our situation, the agent continued. You killed 14 people in the last 12 hours. Under normal circumstances, you'd be facing multiple murder charges. However, those 14 people were foreign nationals engaged in organized crime on U.S. soil, attempting to murder a federal witness. The circumstances are complicated. Complicated how? Sarah asked. Complicated in that Mr. Hale's actions, while illegal, directly resulted in the capture of Viktor Volkov and the preservation of critical evidence. Complicated in that prosecuting him creates problems we'd rather avoid. The agent leaned back. We're prepared to offer a deal. What kind of deal? Sarah's tone was carefully neutral. Immunity from prosecution in exchange for full cooperation. Mr. Haley testifies about everything he saw and heard, provides evidence about the Volkov operations, and agrees to work with federal prosecutors. And the bodies? Self-defense, all of them. The ballistics support it, the tactical situation supports it, and frankly, we don't want the publicity of prosecuting a father who defended his son from international criminals. The agent slid papers across the table. Sign this, and you walk out of here today. Ryan read the agreement carefully, Sarah pointing out clauses and implications. It was generous, more generous than he deserved, but Sarah had explained on the way in that the federal government needed this prosecution more than they needed to punish Ryan. He signed. 2 hours later, Ryan walked out of the federal building into afternoon sunlight. Sarah had arranged a car, a safe house, and enough security to ensure no remaining Volkov assets could reach them. But Ryan didn't go to the safe house. He went to the hospital where Lena was receiving treatment, where Ethan waited in a room guarded by federal marshals. His son saw him coming down the hallway and ran, launching himself into Ryan's arms with enough force to make his broken ribs scream. Ryan didn't care. He held his boy, felt small arms around his neck, and let the tears come. You came back, Ethan whispered. I promised, didn't I? You kept your promise. I'll always keep my promises to you, buddy. Always. They stood in that hallway for a long time, father and son, both of them damaged but alive, both of them safe. Lena watched from her hospital bed, IV fluids and antibiotics finally stabilizing her condition, a soft smile on her pale face. Eventually, Sarah approached, her expression gentle. We need to discuss next steps, the trial, protective measures, relocation if necessary. Later, Ryan said, not releasing his son. Right now, I just need to be here. Sarah nodded understanding, walked away to give them privacy. Ethan pulled back, looked up at his father with those innocent eyes that had seen too much. Are the bad people really gone? The worst of them are. The rest will be in prison soon. So we're safe now? Ryan thought about how to answer. The truth was complicated. There would always be threats. Always be people who wanted revenge. Always be sharp edges in the world. But there would also be people like Sarah, like Lena, like Marcus, who'd given everything to protect them. We're safer, Ryan said.